All right, we are going to get started. So hello, everyone, and welcome to Mastering More4apps, the ERP Cloud Toolbox projects module. I am Stephanie, and I'll be moderating today's webinar. Since this is a quick-fire webinar, I'll just go over a few things as fast as possible before handing it over to our host, Rachana. So everyone will receive today's recording by the end of the week. We will also have some example sheets to go along with today's session, so keep an eye out for that as well. And then after Rachana presents, we will begin our Q&A portion. During the session, feel free to put your questions in the Q&A box down below or in the chat. We will only answer them during the Q&A part, just to allow everyone to hear the entirety of the presentation and to hop off at the end if needed. So we have our last session coming up next, so be sure to join us then too. And I know that you might have missed previous presentations, but it's not a big deal. We will still send all the recordings. And now a little bit about our host today. So Rachana has been in the Oracle ethos for over 20 years. She has extensive experience as a consultant, implementing, upgrading, and supporting Oracle applications ranging from Oracle 11i to cloud and spanning a breadth of modules across supply chain, procurement, inventory, and manufacturing. She is currently a board member in multiple OATUG special interest groups like AR and order management, and is a regular speaker and writer on the topic of supply chains. But before we pass it off to Rachana, we also have our Vice President of Marketing Communications here, Stephanie DiPaolo, and she has a few words. So Stephanie.
Thank you, Stephanie. As she mentioned, I'm Stephanie DiPaolo. I'm the VP of Marketing Communications here at More4apps. And after helping Oracle users for over 25 years, we're really excited about hosting our first ever end user education day. So leveraging our Oracle expertise, we focus on solving data problems for users, working with Oracle EBS and Fusion Cloud ERP. And our mission has always been and continues to be removing the friction and complexities with your ERP data processes. So in today's session, you'll see the full potential of the projects module in our ERP Cloud Toolbox, ranging from maintaining project tasks or classifications to managing contracts, plus a full breakdown of resources and forecasts. You'll also see how much easier everyday data tasks are in the projects module compared to Oracle's FBDI spreadsheet solution. We have a lot to cover, so I'll pass it back to Rasha to get into the projects module.
All right, thank you, both of you. And I'm going to take over the screen share shortly. I've been with More4apps for about 9+ years, and I might have worked with some of you in the course of my interactions as part of the pre-sales and product solutions specialist group. So I'm going to take over the screen share, and I'll save some bandwidth by stopping the camera right here. And I'm going to dive in. Since this is a hands-on training, I'm going to go a little bit deeper into the product, try to cover some of the lesser known features and functions. And there are starter level videos all around. We can provide them to walk through the basics of how it works. But yeah, I'm assuming here that we are already logged in. And this is for the lesser known, often missed kind of features and functions. So, going into what we were going to talk about today was the budgets. We are going to compare how budgets are very cumbersome. Many of you might be heading into the capital project setup stage in a couple months when you have to set up when you have new budgets and you want to set up a lot of CapEx projects. That's when you would be swamped with a lot of budget setups. So here's in the Oracle Cloud, budget setup can get very cumbersome. One is on the Oracle forms. I was trying to do that, and it's going into task and then another pop-up window, and I have a video of that, but yeah, I'll save that for later. But that becomes cumbersome. And then on the FBDI, there is a little template also where you go down tasks and periods in a single column. So even that is cumbersome because people think in a table format when it comes to project budgets. You go into period buckets in a horizontal kind of a layout. Even when people are dealing with setting up the budgets internally and planning for it, you want to think two-dimensional, list your project task, and then go across giving the cost or the quantity and forecasting it or budgeting for the periods. So that's how the More4apps template offers compared to FBDI. And it's all contained within one sheet. You don't really have to leave the sheet at all from start to finish and from top to bottom of the budget record itself, or even for projects And any of the records that we're going to see, any of the entities, they're all contained within their one single spreadsheet. You don't have to hop across or tie across. That's the benefit you'll see. Okay, so we're already logged in. When you want to generate templates, they're within here. You can edit templates and you can tailor them as per your needs. So let's go in and dive into building a project budget. So these are some of the projects I'd set up. You can very easily pull up the tasks. And to pull up tasks, I have a sliced down project task template here. I can put the project number in here. And when I download on this sliced down sheet, I get all the tasks. And I can use that to generate my project budget for all of these tasks. So I can just copy them over, list them in the budgets as all the tasks against this project. When I go down to the task number, I can list them down here, right? And at the header level, I just put the project number. Now I can use default values. This is also a slightly lesser known feature for the new users. You can put anything that is going to be a global value. For example, if your plan type is always going to be approved cost and revenue, or the planning amounts have a certain type, you can just put that once on top and you don't have to bother about putting them on the data rows. So that saves you some key entry when it is going to be repetitive kind of entries. Okay, so it's going to be the one entry going multiple times on multiple projects. You can just pop it in once there and leave it for the others. Okay. All right, so now let's go ahead and build this out. So you can use the data forms or you can copy and paste. So here's the data forms where you can get all of the list of values. So this is a validated drop-down list of values from the connected instance that I'm logged into. And you can go down to any level, including the resources. So you can go down and look up the resources that you want to allocate. You can put the start date, end date. You can look up the resource name and allocate those as well. So for now, I'm just going to do expenses all across board. And then I can give the start date and end date between the start and end of the tasks. And in this case, it's all going to be current. All right. And then I can go in and put the dates here. Okay. So in this case, yeah, let's just go from 10-1 that we have here. I can use a formula here as well as this month. Okay. And then I can go all the way to next year. So this is one way to build the budget if you want to quickly do it. Now you can hand it off to someone who's doing the planning and they can plug in their quantities and amounts and get done with handing it back to you, and you can log in and upload this. You can also recycle. For example, it's going to be repetitive. You have already got these for one project. You can just use the same and recycle this for project number 14. If it's going to be a replica, you have a lot of similar CapEx budgets. You can just generate a new version for the same one. If you take off the version number, you can also baseline it from here as soon as you put the status as baseline. And you can also copy and paste from any external sheet. So many times you're handed your amounts in a table fashion. You can just take that and paste it here. Now you can also alter how the sheet looks like, because sometimes you might not always have this entire period on a project. You could be going beyond, you could be going a little from before. So all of that is locked in within the settings. So when you go into settings, you can pick project financial budget, and it gives you the ability to build your sheet dynamically. So the settings here are going to define how your sheet looks like. So you can set your starting period for the project accounting period. You can set the number of periods that you're going to forecast or budget for, and then you can indicate whether it's going to be raw cost or burden cost. Based off of that, you can save these settings, and this is going to take effect when you generate a new sheet from within here. Notice that within here, we also allow you to tailor and personalize the template when you generate it. So although you have all of these, when you're creating a new sheet, you can uncheck some of these sections if you don't need them. All right, so this is a new feature that was added recently. You can take off anything that is not needed. For example, this section up here, the planning level, the planning options, those are not mandatory, so you can take them off now. Tasks and resources are required. Anything to do with DFFs, you can take them off. So that you can tailor it. And as a second pass, you can also tailor it once it's generated. You can also remove columns from within here. If you don't need something, you don't need this read-only column, which is in gray, you can delete that. So that way you can own the template, you can own your sheet, and it can all be done at the end user level, which is something that FBDI would never be, is not able to offer you at all. Okay, so you can go in and remove these DFFs. So this is the flexibility at your hands. Okay, let's keep working on our budget that we were uploading here. So let's seed in a few error messages also, so that, so let's say I'm going to do an error message on this one. I'm going to do a project 5 on this one. Okay, and then let's seed in some error where we surpass the end date of the task. So let's say I put this as 2030 or something far out, and seed in a few errors. You'll see that the error messages are also caught here and brought back onto the sheet. You don't have to comb through any error logs or go into any other interface or screens to look up the errors. It's all brought back here. Okay, so let's go ahead and upload. You'll see that the default values trickle down and take over wherever it is blank. If it is different, if you have a value specified, it won't touch it. But if it's empty, it's going to fill in whatever you have up on the top. I can also use formulas here, which is what I've done on the name. I've just equaled it to the number. Okay. All right. So here's some of the errors: plan status version for the financial plan version. Okay, so that's what the error messages will look like. So yeah, let's take out the plan version. But yeah, essentially, if it's all good, you would see it coming back as accepted. Okay. Otherwise, you would see errors coming back in this fashion, and you can work through those. So basically, you can look at the dates, if it's in the right range for the project and the task, and correct those. That's what the problem was here with the status. And then if not, if there is no errors, it will just come back as accepted. You can also make updates to the existing ones. If I want to download an existing budget, I can just take the project number and the version, and then I can download those. There is also a download form where you can search based on a few other control parameters, like search parameters that you can manage here. Okay, so here's a project name, but you can also go into resources and search by your resource name. If you want to filter down within the project, these are the available. And these are all compounded kind of searches. So you do a combination of all the elements you're providing during your search and during the download. All right, and yeah, we can share some basic videos also at the end. And these example sheets will also be shared out. These are all trimmed down. You don't have to look at all of the DFFs and all the other unwanted information. The only thing that won't be reusable is the periods. So you would be able to tweak the period names, or you can change your calendar based on the settings. Okay, so let's go to a little bit to the, so that's the budgets you can update as well as create. We can go into contracts. There's a lot of functionality within the projects module, ranging from management of projects, tasks, classifications, and then going into budgets, forecasts, and contracts as well. And all of that is locked within the templates. So when it comes to forecast, the download of the forecast is quite powerful. When you're forecasting, it's useful to see what the actuals have been. And when you download a project, the same way that we did before, using any of these pointed columns here, when we download that, this start date is going to indicate which is the separator between the actuals and the forecasted values. So if you look at this date and go over to the buckets here on a forecast, you'll notice that 1/1/24 is the ETC, and that is the cutoff where you start seeing the forecast starting here. Until then, whatever you download is the actuals. So that makes it really helpful when you want to tweak the forecasts based on the actuals. So that's quite something that users would like. Okay, and that's also something you would not be able to do on the corresponding FBDI templates, where you're able to see actuals and forecasted values on the same sheet. Let's look at contracts, and you can keep the questions flowing in on the chat. We'll go and look at it in the end. We'll take a look at the end. Going into contracts, you can update contracts. And then here again, you'll be able to see the entire expanse. I've left it quite large here. In this case, I've not trimmed down too much. So you're able to see the billing account, shipped to, sold to, everything, including the tax control and DFFs. So you can manipulate all of this while creating the contracts, and you can submit from approval from within here. So here are the contract lines where you can specify whether it is for an item or it is for the entire customer or a duration. You can specify all the details. I've downloaded a bunch of contracts here, and I can make an action of update. Again, I'm going to make use of the default values, and I can plug in any updates, such as the dates, if I want to extend the date on this version. Okay, or I want to add a new line to it. I can go in and add a new line where I can just insert a line here and then add another item to it, or any other supplier, customer, partner for that matter. Okay. So the difference is that instead of update, you would have a contract line action as create when you're creating a new line, but you can very well go in and add a different item and project if you want. All right, so all these updates, the others you could be updating. You could be just updating the amounts as you have here, so that we can, and then again, you can, if you want a universal update action, you can do that up top here. So let's just do a few updates. And I'm going to just modify the line amounts. So I can just make it 400 and 750 and so on. So you can make any edits on your dates, amounts, okay, or any of the sections. And then you can upload these as updates to the contracts, to existing contracts. So it goes pretty simple, just like we saw before. Messages and all the feedback comes on the status columns on the left. All right. Creating contracts, just as easy. You can even download an existing contract and tweak up the values and extend it. If you want to renew it for the next quarter, you can just download the previous quarter, tweak up the dates, and have your raw data ready for a new one. If it's the same items and same conditions, you can just download the previous one, and you can make the action as create here and just change the dates to the next quarter, and you should be able to, of course, you would have to change the numbering and the name of the contract, but beyond that, it should be able to just upload and create a new extension to the contract. Okay. Other than that, I was going to dive into projects. Now, projects has a lot of sections and a lot of areas spanning from tasks and classifications, going to key members, and so many other, quite a vast expanse. So you could have it all on one sheet when you're maintaining a project, or you could split it up. That's the benefit here. You have the flexibility to create slices out of it, small slices, and distribute them among the tabs, or you could have all in one kind of a sheet where everything is in a glance for all the projects. Okay, so yeah, we'll let this progress, and I could go to a new sheet, or yeah, so we'll let this progress. So few errors here and there, we can go in and dive into it. Otherwise, it's all accepted. So that was the contracts. On the contract create, I've limited this a little bit. There is just a few columns, and I can download and create new contract versions for that existing. Same customer, I can just extend it to a new start date and end date, and I can create a new revision to that contract or an extension to that contract. Okay, so let's go into projects now, the key task of maintaining projects. That can be quite cumbersome because it can be really large, as you know. So if I were to download all the projects that I've been creating, I can do a percentage also under wherever it is pointed. I could do a percentage as a wildcard, and it will bring me the project details, the project settings, or the setup of the project itself, which spans across classifications, team members, tasks, and so on. The controls, task controls, okay, at all of this could be on one sheet, as I've done here, if you want to get a full snapshot, because FBDI would make you go into split sheets. This is one advantage if you want to see it all in one. So you can download and get a full view, a full expanse of everything on one sheet if you want to update and touch various sections in one go. Okay, now notice that you can do a combination within the project. You can also do a certain task, or wherever there is a pointer, you can actually use those as filters. So you can say active project. I can go down and look at any other pointed columns and filter by that. Okay. On the download form, you even have the team member as a downloadable field. Okay, so now once you have it all in one, you could just say update records. Now records, the term records is going to cascade downward to the child sections also. Once you say update records, that's the difference between update and update records. Update just sticks to this current section, whereas update records will cascade down across horizontally to all the child sections in one sweep. So you don't have to keep putting update at every section. So now you can go in, sprinkle in all of your changes that you want to make on all of these projects and do a bulk update. So very easy to do it in one go. Now, sometimes the requirement might be a little different. You might have hundreds of projects where you just want to update the classifications. In that case, it makes better sense to pull out a certain section, not deal with so much noise around each project. Just go and pull out that section and create your own little sheet which just spans the project header and then the classifications, nothing else. The same can be done with tasks or the team members. So that becomes much easier to manage certain sections for a large number of projects. Okay, so here I can just download the same set of projects, and I can just limit it to. All right, so I could do a wildcard substring also this way, and then I'm going to download. So this should be a smaller number. Okay, so notice that if there are no team members, you don't see the clutter of the tasks and everything. You just see them all in one row here. And I can look at who already is as a project manager. Let's say this is the right project manager for all the others. I can just take that, copy it over, put it in here. Now this is a create in this case. All of these are getting added as a new member where there was none before. So I can put a create action and go ahead and upload these, assigning a project manager for this duration. All right. So that way you can do it all in one or split it. Additionally, there is, when you are dealing with this kind of a situation where things are, spread apart owing to child records, there is a neat little feature where you can go into formatting. Many times if you're pulling in data from another sheet and you have the project and task description coming out of any other system, external system, and it's a query output, it might not be in this format, but it's very easy to convert to this format and collapse the headers under formatting. This is also not a very frequently known feature. You can normalize and denormalize very easily. So what normalize means is that it is this kind of a depiction where you have the header just occurring once. And this is what More4apps, as an integrator, we like it this way, where you have one header with child records. But if you're getting it from another sheet or another system, you might have it with repeating headers. And that format is called a denormalized format. So that can be easily flip-flopped with the help of this formatting switch here. Okay. So you can very quickly get it from any external system. And when you're ready to denormalize, you can just click on this. When you're ready to upload, you should always normalize. Remember to normalize because that's always a preferred format where there is more efficiency in running the queries. Once the parent is queried, it'll just query for the lines within. All right, so that covers our, let me just go into key members and show the download form because that could also be useful when you're looking for a certain resource. So here you can look up the download form. As you can see, you can search by project name, number, or even just a start date, finish date. But more helpful is when you want to swap out a team member. You can search by project manager and the team member, or you can look up classifications, a certain classification that you want to swap out. So these are the various filters available. Okay. All right, so besides this, I also wanted to draw your attention to some of these little add-ins that are built in, little hooks that are built in. You have an easy reference to the user guide here that can take you to the specific integrator you are on. So let's say you're on contracts. And then it'll ask you for the module and the integrator that you want to pull up the help for, and it'll take you to the user guide. So let's say you want it for contracts, you can pull that up. And when you select that, it'll open up the web page for the contracts. So everything is linked in within here for your user guides. In addition, when you go into product support, it takes you to the More4apps community. This is something we have launched earlier this year. And this is your one-stop shop to get a view into everything going on within the More4apps community, including your cases. So we encourage all of you. It's pretty easy to set up as a user on this. Just go in and register. When you're going into, let's say, cases, it'll ask you, because this is personalized to your account, you'll only see your cases. So when you go in there, it'll ask you to register. You can very quickly register. It's a short form. And then once you have that, you can log in, and then you will be able to see only your cases. You can manage them all at one place. Besides that, you can also join any discussion forums, threads that go on. Okay, so all the discussions are here. You can ask a question. We monitor these and answer, and even the user community can answer each other and build on these. So we are hoping that everyone joins here, and we have some discussions. We can share some learnings on this. You can also go in and look at all the other downloads. Besides the user guides, you can also look at all the other products and features. For example, if something new comes up and you want to download a new version, something that is, I can just give a sneak preview. We have the non-labor and labor rates schedules coming up pretty soon. So that'll be a new version, and then you can download, and that gets added in within your templates. So this is something right around the corner. You would be able to see non-labor rates if you're building rate schedules. You have the job rates, and then the person rates, the labor rates, that is. Okay, you can build it and assign those. All right, so I think let's cast a glance at the questions or anything that might have come up.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll make some time for the Q&A. We'll maybe take 10 minutes depending on the amount of questions that we have. So if you initially ask a question and have any further clarifying questions, you can raise your hand and I can unmute you. We did that earlier and it worked out well. People like to talk it out. Sometimes it's easier. So even if you want to ask a question and raise your hand, we can do it that way. But I also understand if it's a little daunting, but don't worry about it. But we do have a couple. Our first one is, can you submit a budget for approval from Excel if I have budget approval rules before it is baselined, or do I have to go to the application to submit the budget for approval? Bit of a mouthful. If you need me to repeat it, I can.
Yeah, no, I think I got the gist. Yeah, so there is submission for approval and even baselining within here. Okay. So one of the status is baseline. And then let's look at this. And then it goes through the approval cycles from here. When you upload, it follows the same cycle that you would have on this. So you have approvals. You can do it as approved, or you can, when you submit it as processing and working, as in the working status, it would go through the cycle of going through the approvals. And these things we can also check on the user guide to double confirm, but yeah, basically it should go through the workflows that are set up for approvals.
Okay, great. What options are available for project templates? Can project templates be managed?
Yes, so there is an option for project templates also. When you create a new sheet, you can go into project templates. So that's under financial management. Okay, you can create a project template. And I'll just leave everything. And here you can manage your project templates, which will be like a source template for building new projects. Okay, so within here you can download, and then you have all the sections. Since I've included everything, this could be quite a large sheet, but you can trim it down based on your needs. If you're not giving customers, for example, on your templates, you can trim that off. And then you can assign tasks and classifications and all of these. But yes, that's very much available for creation as well as for updates.
Okay, great. Another one. Are there any pre-built validation rules for common project-related errors, such as budget period overruns or task misallocations?
Yes, so let's say when I'm doing my settings and let's say I haven't anticipated the project period correctly. In that case, I might have periods which are before or after the project dates. And if that happens, it'll build, let's say this is starting 10/24, but I built something which is much before, okay, for that project. So, or later on after the tasks are ended. So that's more like an overrun. So in that case, if the date is not spanning into that and you still have the period and you start entering, it will get caught in the validation and it will bring back the error messages right here that you're past your dates that are allowed on that budget, on that project's budget.
Okay, good. I only have one more, so if you have any other questions, feel free to ask. But what are some of the biggest challenges you've seen organizations face when managing budgets in Oracle Cloud ERP?
Yeah,
Do you have any stories from people, I guess?
Yeah, specific to cloud projects, yeah, as we said, going from a table format into a very column-like format. So, for example, if I look at there is an FBDI template that we were looking at before. So here's the template for FBDI, and it presents a very difficult kind of a interface. You have to put your task number and the period number and the resources all in a linear. So you have the period name all here. So going down, each task might span into 12 periods, and then you run into the next task. So that becomes really cumbersome to build out and prone to errors. So there's a lot of errors that can happen when managing budgets this way. Same with the user forms. There are 2 or 3 nested pop-ups until you get to the periods within the task. So it's very prone to errors. People like to do it usually in a 2-dimensional format. Even when the planning teams put their heads together and do it, it's usually passed back in this kind of a format, and then it's easy to copy paste here. But in the absence of that, if you're hand keying it or converting from this to a column format, vertical format for FBDI, it's very prone to errors. Or you might have to do some transpose and lookups and things like that, which could create errors.
Okay, great. Well, I don't have any more questions. I think we have a little bit of a shy group, but that's okay. But before I pass it off to Stephanie and Rachna for some parting words, I'm just going to reiterate that you will receive the recording of today's webinar, plus these example sheets that Rachna has been working in. So that is great. And then if you didn't make the other sessions, that's also okay. We will still send those recordings to you. And I also recommend to join us coming up in a half hour for our final session. But I just want to say thank you again for joining us. And Stephanie, would you like to talk a little bit more about the community?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rachna. Great session. Yeah, just to reiterate about the community, we do encourage you to join. It's packed with thousands of resources and is just a great tool for you, your team, your end users to access helpful information, download our latest product enhancements. It is a great onboarding tool if you have a new hire on your team that will be utilizing the More4apps product suite. It's not just for customers, though. The community is also open to our partners and prospective clients as well. So if you haven't joined yet, please do so. You won't regret it. And thank you all for joining us today. Our end user education day has been very well received, but if you have more topic ideas or products that you want to see in action, don't hesitate to reach out to us via your account rep or marketing@more4apps.com. So thank you, Rachna and Steph, and back to you for parting words.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. It's great to engage with you all, and we are trying to build this as an ongoing series we hope to catch you again in the next one. So stay tuned for more. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks.